You won't believe what happened to me at my own pool. Imagine finishing a brutal workout, stepping outside to relax, and the next thing you know, the cops are pulling up. And get this, it's all because of my crazy neighbor who thinks I don't belong in my own home. But what happens next? Oh, she was not ready for the truth. Stick around because this story will leave you speechless. Man, there's nothing like the feeling after an intense workout, the kind that leaves your muscles screaming, sweat dripping, and your whole body craving that ice-cold water. You know that satisfaction, right? That moment when you push yourself to the limit, and all you want is to cool off and let your body recover. That was exactly my plan. I had just wrapped up an insane session at the gym. Heavy deadlifts, some brutal squats, and a finisher that left me gasping for air. My legs felt like jelly, my arms were pumped, and I could already feel tomorrow's soreness creeping in. But the best part about training hard? The reward afterward. And for me, that reward was my backyard pool. Now, let me set the scene for you. It was one of those rare, perfect afternoons. Clear blue skies, the sun shining just enough to be warm but not unbearable. The kind of day that practically begs you to jump into the water. My pool was sparkling, looking like something straight out of a luxury resort. You could hear the soft rippling of the water, the occasional chirping of birds, and just the quiet calm that comes with having your own space. I grabbed a protein shake from the fridge, tossed my gym bag on the patio chair, and kicked off my sneakers. The plan? A quick dip, maybe some floating around, and just pure, uninterrupted relaxation. But little did I know, relaxation was not what the universe had in store for me that day. Just as I was about to dive in, I got that weird feeling. You know, when you sense someone watching you? At first, I brushed it off. Maybe it was just my imagination. I mean, who'd be staring at me in my own backyard? This was my house, my space. But then I heard it, a cough, a deliberate passive-aggressive type of cough. I turned my head slightly, and there she was, standing right outside my fence, her arms crossed, that signature Karen stance, like she was about to file a complaint with life itself. I sighed. Not again. See, this wasn't my first run-in with my HOA's resident nightmare. This one man, let's call her Karen, because of course that's what she was, had made it her personal mission to monitor everything I did. If I parked my car in a slightly different spot, HOA complaint. If I played music at exactly 4 p.m., noise complaint. If I got a package and it sat outside for more than 10 minutes, another complaint. It was almost like she didn't have a life of her own, so she had to police mine. But this time, she wasn't just peeking from her window or sending emails to the HOA. No, this time, she was standing there, right at my fence, watching me like I was some kind of criminal. Now, I could have ignored her. I should have ignored her. But after months of dealing with her nonsense, I was over it. So I turned to her and gave a polite but firm, "Can I help you?" Big mistake. Karen's face twisted into that classic "I'm about to ruin your day" look. She scoffed and tilted her head. "Oh, I was just wondering what you're doing back here," she said, her voice dripping with fake innocence. I blinked. What kind of question was that? I live here?" I said, pointing at my house like it wasn't obvious. But Karen wasn't having it. You sure about that?" she said, eyeing me up and down. And that's when it hit me. She didn't recognize me. See, normally I'm walking around the neighborhood in regular clothes, jeans, a hoodie, whatever. But today, I was shirtless, dripping sweat, muscles pumped from my workout. And apparently, in Karen's mind, that was suspicious. She squinted at me, her eyes narrowing like she was solving the world's hardest puzzle. "You live here?" she repeated, as if she needed me to confirm it twice. I let out a short laugh, half in disbelief. "Yes, Karen, I do." But instead of apologizing or minding her own business, she just stood there, lips pursed, like she was deciding whether to believe me or not. And then she said the most ridiculous thing. "It's just, you don't look like the kind of person who'd own a house in this neighborhood." Excuse me, what? I felt my jaw tighten, my patience gone. I took a deep breath, trying to keep it together. "And what exactly does someone who lives here look like?" I asked, arms crossed. Karen hesitated, then quickly changed the subject. "Well, I've just never seen you before. Are you sure you live here?" "Am I sure I live here?" At this point, I was done entertaining her nonsense. "Karen, I have a key. I have a garage opener. I have my name on the mailbox. I literally just walked out of my own house." But she wasn't budging. I don't know. Maybe I should call someone just to double check. And before I could even react, she pulled out her phone. I watched, dumbfounded, as she dialed. And within seconds, I heard the words that made my blood boil. "Hi, yes, I'd like to report a suspicious person trespassing in my neighbor's backyard. He's acting aggressive, and I think he might be dangerous." I stared at her in utter disbelief. Was this really happening? Was my own neighbor seriously calling the cops on me for being at my own pool? And let me tell you, that was just the beginning. I stood there, completely stunned. My own neighbor was calling the cops on me, at my own house. And for what? Because I had the audacity to exist in my own backyard. I could still hear her voice, laced with fake concern, as she spoke into her phone. "Yes, officer. There's a suspicious man in my neighbor's backyard. He looks aggressive. I don't feel safe." Aggressive? Aggressive. I hadn't even moved, hadn't raised my voice. I was just standing there, hands on my hips, watching her fabricate a whole story out of thin air. I let out a dry laugh, shaking my head. This was actually happening. She had made up her mind. I didn't look like I belonged here, and now she was doing everything in her power to make sure someone came to remove me. The worst part, I knew exactly how this would go. I wasn't about to take any chances. The moment she started talking to the cops, I did what any smart person would do. I grabbed my phone and hit record. "Karen, do you even hear yourself?" I said, making sure my camera was aimed directly at her. "You're literally calling the police because I'm at my own house." She didn't even flinch. She just turned her back to me slightly, still talking. "He's shirtless and looks really aggressive. I think he might be on something." "Oh, so now I'm on something?" I took a deep breath, my hands clenched into fists. But I forced myself to stay calm. This was the kind of situation where losing your temper would only prove her point, and I wasn't about to give her that satisfaction. Instead, I did the only thing that made sense. I walked over to my patio table, picked up my house keys, and jangled them in the air. "See these, Karen? House keys. Because this is my house. Want me to open the door for you?" She ignored me, her voice getting even louder. "Yes, officer, please hurry. I'm really scared." I couldn't help but laugh again. Scared of what? Me minding my business in my own backyard? That's when I realized this wasn't just about today. This woman had been waiting for an opportunity like this, watching me, waiting for any excuse to make a scene, to flex whatever fake authority she thought she had over the neighborhood. And now, she thought she had won. I had barely finished my protein shake when I heard it. Sirens. And not just one, multiple. My stomach tightened. I knew how these situations could go. It didn't matter if I was innocent. It didn't matter if this was my house. All it took was one bad cop, one misunderstanding, and things could turn dangerous real fast. I grabbed my phone, still recording, and stepped towards the gate, just as two police SUVs came screeching to a stop in front of my house. Two officers jumped out, hands on their holsters, eyes locked on me. Great. I raised my hand slightly, not in surrender, but just enough to show I wasn't a threat. "Sir, step away from the property," one of them barked. "Step away? From my own property?" I held up my phone. "I live here. This is my house." She's lying. But before I could even finish, Karen ran up to them like she was the victim of some horrific crime. "Officers, thank God you're here. I was so scared. He was acting aggressive and wouldn't leave. I think he might be dangerous." I could feel my blood boiling. The audacity. "Are you serious right now?" I shot back. "You just made up an entire story." But she wasn't listening. She was already in full Karen mode, tears forming in the corners of her eyes, one hand clutching her chest like she had just survived a horror movie. One of the officers turned back to me. "Sir, do you have any ID?" I clenched my jaw, not because I didn't want to cooperate, but because I hated the principle of this. Why should I have to prove I live here? Why was I guilty until proven innocent, while Karen got to play the victim? But arguing wouldn't get me anywhere. I wasn't about to let her win. I took a deep breath and handed over my driver's license. "Check the address," I said flatly. "This is my house." The moment the truth started to unravel, the officer looked at my ID, then at my house, then back at Karen. For the first time, her fake confidence wavered. "Wait, what do you mean your house?" she stammered. I exhaled sharply. "Karen, for the last time, I live here. You just called the cops on your own neighbor." One officer turned to her. "Ma'am, do you have any proof that he doesn't live here?" Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. I've never seen him before," she blurted out. "And that's your reason for calling 911? The officer asked, his expression turning from serious to annoyed. That's when it really hit me. She was in trouble now. She had wasted police resources over her paranoia. She had made false accusations against an innocent person. And worst of all, I had it all on video. I didn't say another word. I just walked over to my patio and grabbed my laptop. "Since we're doing investigations now," I said, pulling up my security camera footage, "let's see how this all started." I turned the screen toward the officers. Boom. There it was. Footage of me walking out of my own house to the pool. Karen showing up and trespassing on my property. Her calling the cops for no reason. The officers exchanged glances. One of them rubbed his forehead like this was the last thing he wanted to deal with. The other turned back to Karen, his tone sharper this time. "Ma'am, do you realize that filing a false police report is a serious offense?" Karen's face turned white. She had messed up. If I thought Karen had already hit peak insanity, I was dead wrong. Because the moment the officers realized she had wasted their time, things took a very interesting turn. But before we get to that, let's rewind a few seconds. Back to when I handed over my security footage to the cops. I stood there, arms crossed, watching as they played the video on my laptop. Karen, on the other hand, she was sweating bullets. Her arms were folded so tightly across her chest, it looked like she was trying to hold herself together. I could hear her mumbling under her breath. "This is ridiculous. I was just looking out for the neighborhood. I didn't do anything wrong." But the officers? Oh, they were done with her nonsense. The moment the footage clearly showed me walking out of my own house, shirtless, in gym shorts, with a towel over my shoulder, the officer holding my ID exhaled loudly. You know that tired sigh people do when they're about to rip someone a new one? Yeah, that was it. He turned his head slowly toward Karen, his eyes practically burning through her soul. "Ma'am," he started, his voice controlled but firm. "Would you like to explain this?" Karen, in true Karen fashion, doubled down. "That doesn't prove anything," she snapped. "How do I know that's not from another day?" I almost choked. "Really? That's your excuse?" But before I could even say anything, the officer flipped the laptop around and pointed at the timestamp. "Ma'am, this footage is from 10 minutes ago." Boom. Karen's face turned 5 shades of red. At this point, everyone knew Karen had no real excuse. But instead of admitting she was wrong, she did what every Karen does when backed into a corner. She switched tactics. I just didn't recognize him," she stammered. "He looks so different today. I thought he was a trespasser." The officer pinched the bridge of his nose. "You mean to tell me," he said slowly, "that you've lived here for years and you've never seen your own neighbor before?" Well, I usually don't pay attention," she sputtered. "Clearly," I muttered under my breath. The officer sighed and turned back to me. "Sir, I sincerely apologize for this inconvenience. You are obviously within your rights to be here." I nodded, but before I could even respond, the other officer, who had been quiet this whole time, finally spoke up. "And ma'am," he said, turning to Karen, "you do realize that filing a false police report is a serious offense, correct?" Bam! There it was. The moment the words false police report left his mouth, Karen's whole demeanor changed. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth fell open slightly. For the first time since this whole mess started, she actually looked scared. "But I was just trying to be safe," she blurted out, throwing her hands up dramatically. The officer shook his head. "Calling 911 and lying about someone being aggressive? That's not being safe. That's wasting police resources." "I wasn't lying," she screeched. "He was standing there all intimidating. I felt threatened." Intimidating me? I literally had a protein shake in one hand and a phone in the other. The only thing threatening about me was my bench press record. I let out a short, dry laugh. Yeah, standing in my own backyard, drinking a shake, super threatening. But Karen wasn't done. Her eyes darted around as she scrambled for another excuse. I think I hurt my ankle coming over here," she suddenly whined. "Yes, that's it. I think I tripped. I was so stressed and scared. This whole thing has been so traumatic for me." Oh, here we go. Classic Karen move. When all else fails, pretend to be the victim. One of the officers looked like he was actually about to laugh. "Ma'am," he said flatly, "you walked over here just fine. If you were injured, you would have mentioned it before we confronted you." Karen gasped like he had just insulted her entire family. But Ma'am," the officer cut her off. "We've had enough of your lies for one day." At this point, Karen was running out of options. She had tried everything. Playing the hero, the victim, the concerned neighbor. None of it worked. The officers had seen through her act. And now, it was time for consequences. The taller officer pulled out his notepad and started writing something down. Karen's eyes darted between him and me. What are you doing?" she asked nervously. He didn't even look up. "Filing a report." A report?" "Yes, ma'am," he said, flipping the notepad shut. "For wasting police time with a false report. You might be getting a fine for this." Karen's jaw dropped. "A fine? But this isn't fair. I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." The officer raised an eyebrow. "From a homeowner using his own pool?" Karen opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out because, deep down, she knew she had lost. Seeing that she was out of options, Karen did the absolute most Karen thing ever. She turned to me. "Look," she said quickly, forcing a fake smile. "This was all just a big misunderstanding. We're neighbors, right? Let's just forget about all this." I stared at her, completely unimpressed. "You mean forget about the part where you called the cops on me for existing?" I shot back. Karen's smile twitched. She knew she had no power left in this situation. And then, she did something so ridiculous, I almost laughed out loud. She stuck out her hand, like I was supposed to shake it and pretend this never happened. I looked down at her hand, then back at her face. "Nah," I said simply. Her face twisted in anger, but before she could say anything, the officer spoke up again. "Ma'am, you're free to leave," he said firmly. "And I strongly suggest you think twice before calling the police on innocent people again." Karen huffed loudly, muttering something under her breath. Then, with her head held comically high, she turned on her heel and stormed back to her house. I watched her go, shaking my head. The officers turned back to me. "Sorry about all this, sir," one of them said. "We'll file the report and see if the department wants to pursue the fine." I nodded. "Appreciate it. You guys have a good day." And just like that, they left. Karen was defeated. But trust me, this story was far from over, because what happened next? Oh, Karen wasn't done being a menace just yet. And this time, she messed with the wrong person. If you thought Karen had learned her lesson after the cops called her out, you'd be so wrong, because this woman had no shame. Even after she got caught red-handed lying about me trespassing in my own backyard, she still had the nerve to try and flip the story. She started telling people in the neighborhood that the cops were just being nice to me, and that I had somehow tricked them into believing I lived there. Like, seriously? I had lived in this house for years. She had known me since I moved in. And now, because her ego couldn't handle being wrong, she was trying to rewrite history? Oh, absolutely not. It was time to put an end to her nonsense once and for all. And the best part? I didn't even have to do much, because the security footage did all the work for me. The neighborhood gossip train takes off. It started small. A few neighbors mentioned they had heard a different version of the story from Karen. "Oh, yeah, she said the cops let you off because they felt bad for you. She's been telling people you were acting suspicious before she called them. Karen said she only called because she thought you were about to commit a crime." She wasn't just doubling down. She was rewriting the entire event. I knew Karen was bad, but I didn't think she'd go full conspiracy theory mode over this. But fine. If she wanted to play that game, I had receipts. And those receipts were in 4K HD, time-stamped, and impossible to argue with. Time to shut Karen down. Publicly, I didn't plan some big dramatic moment. I didn't even have to call her out directly. All I did was post the security footage in our neighborhood's Facebook group. The post was simple. "Hey everyone, some of you may have heard a certain alternative version of what happened the other day when the cops showed up at my pool. Just so we're all clear on the facts, here's the full security footage, complete with timestamps. Enjoy." And then, I sat back and watched the magic happen. Karen gets exposed in real time. The comments started rolling in immediately. People were shocked. They couldn't believe she had the nerve to lie so blatantly. Neighbor 1. "Wait, so you literally just walked into your own backyard and she called the cops on you?" Neighbor 2. "This is wild. She told me you were sneaking around, but here you are, literally drinking a protein shake by the pool." Neighbor 3. "I can't believe she wasted the cops' time like this. What a Karen move." And then, my favorite comment of all, Neighbor 5. Mayor 4. "She's been saying the cops let you off easy, but in the video, they're literally telling her off for making a false report." Karen was done for. The entire neighborhood now knew the truth. You'd think at this point, Karen would just accept defeat, maybe go silent for a while, maybe even, dare I say it, apologize. But no. That would require a level of self-awareness she clearly didn't have. Instead, she went full meltdown mode. Within minutes, she was all over the Facebook post, typing out paragraphs of nonsense. "Karen, this is completely misleading. You edited the footage to make me look bad. Karen, I was just trying to protect the neighborhood. How was I supposed to know you lived there? Karen, you are all turning against me. I can't believe this." The best part? She was getting ratioed hard. For every one of her complaints, there were 10 people roasting her in the replies. Neighbor 5. "Edited footage? Karen, it literally has a timestamp. What are you even talking about?" Neighbor 6. "If you didn't recognize your own neighbor, that's on you." Neighbor 7. "Protect the neighborhood? More like harass innocent people. Just admit you were wrong and move on." Neighbor 8. "Karen, just take the L, please." At this point, she had nowhere to go. She had been fully exposed. And yet, she still wouldn't give up. Karen tries one last pathetic excuse. After getting absolutely destroyed in the comments, Karen tried one last desperate move. She messaged me directly, like, "What?" After all that, now she wanted to talk privately. I almost didn't even open the message, but curiosity got the best of me. And let me tell you, it was peak Karen behavior. Karen, hey, I think we should just put this whole thing behind us. Neighbors shouldn't fight. Oh, now she wanted to be friendly. Karen, maybe you should take down the post. It's really making me look bad, and that's not fair to me. Excuse me? Not fair to her? She literally tried to get me arrested in my own backyard. And now she was worried about how she looked? I took a deep breath before replying. Karen, I didn't make you look bad. You did that to yourself. Maybe next time, don't lie about people to the cops. Have a great day. And then, the aftermath, and Karen's sudden disappearance. The funniest part of all this, after getting absolutely dragged in the comments and ignored by me, Karen just vanished. For weeks, she stayed completely silent. No more drama, no more passive-aggressive comments. It was like she had finally realized she lost. Some of the neighbors even joked about it. Did Karen move away? Nah, she's probably just too embarrassed to show her face. Either way, I wasn't complaining. For the first time in ages, the neighborhood was peaceful. No more false police calls, no more unnecessary drama. And all it took was one security camera and a well-placed Facebook post. But wait, it's not over yet. Because just when I thought Karen had finally learned her lesson, she tried one final desperate act of revenge. And let me tell you, it backfired spectacularly. Just when I thought Karen had finally crawled back into the shadows, she pulled one last stunt. And let me tell you, it was the dumbest move yet. She just couldn't handle losing. She had been humiliated. Her lies had been exposed. And the entire neighborhood saw her for who she really was. So instead of taking the L and moving on like a normal person, she tried to get back at me. And of course, it went horribly wrong. Karen's last-second desperation move. I should have seen it coming. A Karen never gives up without one final tantrum. A week after the Facebook post, I got a strange email from my homeowners association, HOA. Yep, the HOA. The subject line? Urgent. Homeowner complaint filed against you. I knew exactly who was behind this. I opened the email, and sure enough, it was a formal complaint from Karen. Her reasoning? She claimed I had created an unsafe environment in the neighborhood by, wait for it, spreading false information online and inciting harassment. Excuse me? She was the one who called the cops on me for no reason, and now I was the one making the neighborhood unsafe? I couldn't help but laugh out loud. It was pure desperation. She lost the police battle. She lost the neighborhood's support, and now she was hoping the HOA would somehow punish me. But there was one tiny problem. Karen forgot one major detail. See, I had lived in this neighborhood for years. I paid my HOA fees on time. I followed the rules. And guess what? I knew half the people on the HOA board personally. So when they got Karen's whiny little complaint, they already knew the full story. Not only had they seen the security footage, but a few of them had commented on my Facebook post roasting Karen. So when I showed up to the HOA hearing, ready to defend myself, I didn't even need to say much. As soon as they read her complaint, one of the board members literally rolled his eyes and said, "This is ridiculous. We all saw what really happened." And just like that, complaint dismissed. Karen was shut down. Again. The final nail in the coffin. You'd think that would be the end, right? Karen's plan had backfired. Again. She had officially lost. But the real kicker? The HOA decided that Karen was actually the one causing problems. So instead of punishing me, they sent her an official warning. If she kept causing unnecessary drama in the neighborhood, she'd be fined for harassment. And if she didn't pay the fines, she could be removed from the HOA altogether. So now, instead of getting me in trouble, Karen had completely screwed herself over. Karma at its finest. Karen's sudden disappearance. The meme for real. This time after that, Karen went radio silent. No more gossiping, no more Facebook drama, no more fake 911 calls. It was like she had finally realized she was out of moves. For the first time in forever, the neighborhood was at peace. And honestly, it felt amazing. No more Karen nonsense. No more unnecessary cop visits. Just me, my home, and my pool. Exactly how it should have been all along. Winner versus loser? Let's be real. There was only one winner in this situation, and it definitely wasn't Karen. She tried everything to ruin my day, my reputation, and even my standing with the HOA. And every single time, she got wrecked by the truth. Meanwhile, I went back to living my best life, still hitting the gym, still enjoying my post-workout pool time, without a Karen trying to call the cops on me, and best of all, I got to watch her completely destroy her own credibility, all by herself. So yeah, I won. And Karen, she learned a brutal lesson. If you're gonna pick a fight, make sure you're not the one in the wrong, because when the truth comes out, it always wins. Final thought, was that the last of Karen? Well, for now, she's quiet. But you never know with Karens. They have a way of popping back up when you least expect it. So if she ever tries something again, you already know I'll be ready.